Morgan is the VP of product for AI at Dropbox.
So I was reflecting yesterday. I went through the whole day and there wasn't a single thing that I did that I didn't use AI as a companion to do it.
I would love to hear about your top 3 favorite ways to use AI to save time, get more shit done at work.
We did a study and found that knowledge workers spend about 160 hours a year just looking for stuff and switching between different contexts. I created another kind of prompt, which basically takes all of the stakeholders that I meet with regularly. And effectively, every document or every meeting agenda that I have for that, I can run it through that prompt, and it gives me a anticipated perspective and questions that they might ask.
What kind of PMs do you look for to bring on board?
The idea has to stand up by itself more so than because it's my idea is the reason it should stand.
A year from now, dude, what would PMA look like? All right, welcome everyone. My guest today is Morgan Brown. Morgan is the VP of product for AI at Dropbox. Super excited to talk to him about building Dash, Dropbox's new AI agent for work. Morgan also has some great hot takes about how AI will change product management and what you can do today. So welcome, Morgan.
Thanks, Peter. Thanks for having me. Really excited to be speaking with you today.
Yeah. So why don't we start with this overall question? I would love to hear about your top 3 favorite ways to use AI to save time, get more shit done at work.
Yeah, I think, I was reflecting yesterday. I went through the whole day and there wasn't a single thing that I did that I didn't use AI as a companion to do it.
Yeah.
And it really dawned on me that I think that's the first time that I've had a technology so pervasive, maybe since kind of the, some of the cloud tools that we use every day for work, or maybe my iPhone. It was kind of remarkable. So it's integrated deeply in everything that I do. But I think my 3 favorite things are pre-reads. You lead product, you run product. We read a ton of documents. And one of the things that I realized is that I give the same types of feedback over and over. What's the job to be done? What's the customer evidence? What's the supporting data? Does this have strong logical rigor to it? Are there any assumptions or gaps, second order effects that we're not considering, risks, trade-offs, so on and so forth? And so I really started to codify that into a prompt to run my pre-read documents through. So I created a prompt template, and every time I get a pre-read, I run a document through that, and it gives me a really clear perspective on the types of questions that I would ask, the types of feedback that I would give, and really lets me hone in very quickly into the areas of concern or opportunity. So that's been one of my favorites. Another one is meeting prep. You hear this one a lot, but I do my meeting prep slightly different. I created another kind of prompt, which basically takes all of the stakeholders that I meet with regularly. So whether that's Drew, whether that's our CTO, whether that's our head of legal, head of GTM, head of sales, and effectively every document or every meeting agenda that I have for that, I can run it through that prompt, and it gives me a anticipated perspective and questions that they might ask. So it's kind of a pre-brief for myself to get ready for, hey, what kinds of questions might Drew ask? What kind of questions might Ali, our CTO, ask? And really trying to steel man some of my arguments, get prepared to be as effective as possible in those meetings is another one of my favorites for sure. And then I think there's a bunch of automation and things that I try to keep tabs on that I really love. So for example, I want to keep tabs of all of the latest AI papers that come out of archive. So I have a ChatGPT operator script that just runs every day. It says, give me the top 3 AI papers published on archive today, summarize them, highlight the ones that are groundbreaking, the ones that are incremental, and the ones that will be most meaningful to the areas that I work on, such as knowledge work and productivity and that type of thing. So really goes everywhere. But I use it in my personal life all the time. I actually, probably the most interesting way that I use AI is I use it as follow-on work for my therapy sessions. So, I meet with a therapist a couple times a week, and we had an agreement where I can take those sessions, dump them into ChatGPT, and I use them to kind of track my progress and ask questions there. So yeah, there's not a spot that I'm not using it.
Yeah, I love, let me call it 2 things that you pointed out. I think the CEO, getting feedback from the AI CEO before the real CEO is a really good one. So you probably have a bunch of information about like how Jude likes to think and like that kind of stuff in there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of a learning loop where and the nice thing with Dash is that it connects to the Dropbox company sources. So documents that have Drew's feedback, document that Drew has shared with me and written, I can use that as source information to really dial it in. So it's not some generic
Yeah.
CEO that the LLM has hallucinated. It's actually Drew based on his writings and kind of an estimation there.
Yeah, I feel like every CEO that we'll talk about Dash next, but every CEO should just like write a document about like how my principles, what I like to think, and then like you just add it to an AI project, so every employee has that. Probably save so much grief and time. Yeah,
Yeah, it gets everyone aligned much faster and focused on the things that matter, and basically pushes my thinking, like second order effects, strategic advantage. Like those are all things that I should be thinking about constantly. But you know, if I'm tired, if I'm in back to back meetings, maybe I'm not as sharp as I should be, and
yeah,
the LLM just helps nail it.
awesome. I would like to see kind of Dash in action. Maybe you can show us how it works and what it is, and we talk about like some magic moments people have with the product, like what kind of jobs to be done it's trying to solve.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me go ahead and pull it up. Hopefully, you can see my screen. But this is Dash. Dash is really AI-powered search and organization that connects all your work apps in one place. So it makes it easy to find, organize, and share company info with the right people. One of the things that we found when we talk about jobs to be done is knowledge workers like you and me. Paul Graham famously wrote about maker time versus manager time. And if you're a product manager, you spend a lot of time in manager time, which is rapid context switching, lots of meetings, lots of follow-ups. And that time eats into our ability to do deep work, deep creative work. And so the idea of Dash is, hey, there's a lot of productivity and time that's spent in kind of these fragmented coordinating sets of work, which are important, but they eat into that really focused heads down maker time, which is so valued by companies to kind of do this, deeply human, deeply creative, and highly valuable work. Let's take, for example, let's just imagine that I'm a creative marketing studio. I'm helping people in the entertainment industry with kind of their production, their show schedules, that type of thing. This is a very common use case among kind of the Dropbox customer base. And so what I'll do is I'll look for a video from Desert Gold. Maybe this is a video that we're producing for a company in LA. And so I
Mhm.
just go ahead and search Desert Gold LA music video. And you can see here, this is the search results page. So it's kind of searching across a variety of different content. You can see I have a Slack message here. I have some paper documents here. I have a bunch of Dropbox files here as well. I've got a mood board from Miro. So it's really searching across all of my sources. But one of the things that Dash does really well is multimedia search. So while a lot of these retrieval products are focused on text-based information, Dropbox's heritage is really in these creative and marketing fields where work is more than just documents. It's images, it's video, it's advertising assets, it's slides and PDFs and all of that. So really focused on making Dash work across different media types. So here I can see kind of all the related images to the music video. I can pull these up. Here's a bunch of scouting shots, some location, and I can go ahead and just kind of like click through all of the different scouting locations for this video.
Mhm.
I can go ahead and close out of it. There's also, video assets potentially involved with this video shoot. So here I can see all the clips that are coming out here as well. So it gives me just a really powerful way to search across all of those different assets and just find what I'm looking for very quickly. One of the things that was really stood out to me when I first joined Dropbox was the realization that most knowledge workers like you and me, companies that work in these industries, they have over 100 different SaaS tools. And so they're spending a ton of time, navigating through tabs, navigating through different search boxes. And so the ability to find everything just in one place really is like a massive time saver. In fact, we did a study and found that knowledge workers spend about 160 hours a year just looking for stuff and switching between different contexts. That's, at 40-hour weeks, that's a month of time. And if you multiply it, you and I are not cheap resources, Peter. So it's really
Yeah.
a ton of time that gets wasted doing that. So search is really important. But like I said, it's not just about finding those documents. It's really about helping you get answers. And I can, if I want to go and uh, you know, kind of get ready for a meeting to talk about that, I can come over here and I can create a brand new, I can create a brand new document if I want. So, for example, if I wanted to create a meeting summary, if I wanted to create a marketing template, there's a whole bunch of templates that we can create and kind of store in here,
Mm.
so anyone can use them. And if I want, I can just say, hey, help me understand and create the pilot treatment, and really just kind of create any document that I want. So let me go over here. I'll create a brand new chat. I'll go ahead and say, let's see here. I want to view more templates. So you can see I can pick all sorts of templates here. So I'm going to pick a pilot campaign template.
Mm.
Let's assume that we're going to create a new campaign for this new echo chamber project. So we want to create a marketing about marketing and buzz. I can add a Notion document to it. I can add a screener to it. I can add a bunch of sources. And then once I put it in, because I have the template already saved, it's going to start creating this template for me around the campaign. So giving me creative direction, giving me the social platforms, the different content buckets, a timeline, the assets needed, and all of that.
Yeah.
And that's just a great first draft that helps me get everything off and running. If I wanted to, I can go in and I can kind of change the tones for it. So if I wanted to make it more persuasive, saying I had to pitch someone on this, or if I wanted to make it more analytical, maybe I had to go to the CFO, but the budget request, I could change the writing style of it. But one of my favorite features is this kind of your tones, which you can see here. We have like a company tone that's been created specifically with the voice of the company. So if I'm publishing, external documents, working with customer facing content, the team can kind of set a tone and a voice style guide that can be shared with everyone on the team to really kind of standardize it. So that's, kind of on the generative side.
I think being able to create your own custom template is like a super underrated feature. Like for anyone who even knows a little bit about how to prompt AI, like my what grinds my gears about okay, I'm gonna go on a rant. What grinds my gears about like some of the Google Docs AI, like the Zoom AI, is like I just don't like the templates that they have. Like I want to make my own template with my certain bullet point size and like my certain style, and that makes a huge difference between having to like copy and paste something into like ChatGPT and try to prompt it again versus just like one click, like getting this exact style that I want. You know, so I
Yeah,
think a custom
absolutely.
template is
That's
key.
kind of what I
Yeah,
do with my pre-read documents. I kind of create the template once, try to dial it in, and you just get, you get that savings over and over again, which is
yeah.
pretty amazing. I know I talked a lot about kind of the search and find, but Peter, I know you kind of are deep in product and across all these things. Is you like, how does like the idea of like finding anything kind of across all those connected sources land with you, and kind of just the ability to find, media and all of that? I'd love your thoughts on
Yeah.
that too.
I mean, like a funny thing happens in a lot of tech companies, right? Like you spend so much time, like, I'll spend so much time working on my strategy document to do a review with maybe you and Drew, and then, go back and forth, like multiple VPs review it. And then once you're done, you're like, okay, this is done. And then you just leave it there. And then do I look at it again? Maybe, most likely not. I move on to the next thing. So that document is just kind of like sitting there collecting dust. And being able to find the relevant pieces from it, or like being able to use it as context for your other work is like huge. So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
And I always find that I have it in one of like 150 browser tabs, and then someone will ask for it in the middle of a meeting, and I kind of stare helplessly at my browser tabs and wonder which little chiclet it's hidden behind.
Yeah. It sounds like there's like a lot of different use cases and features for Dash. I would love to hear about like going behind the scenes a little bit, talk about your kind of evaluation process for making sure that Dash gives the right results. Like what kind of steps did you go through for that?
Yeah, absolutely. So first and foremost, Dash is only as good as the data inputs that come into it. So one of the things I didn't show you is we have a product called Protect and Control, which allows administrators to manage the data flowing into Dash and also manage the visibility of documents and kind of permissions within that. So right
Mhm.
now, the way that this is done typically is your IT department has someone who's like an unshare guy or gal who basically that means that alongside their normal job, they have to go through all of the clouds when someone leaves the company or when you offboard a contractor or an agency, and make sure that all the sharing settings on documents are set the way they are. And it's a real actual pain point. Protect and Control lets them do that all in one spot and lets them do it in minutes instead of hours. And so um, really kind of controlling the quality and the visibility of data that comes into Dash first and foremost to make sure that Dash is really kind of pulling from the right sources of information.
Mhm.
The second thing that we do is we run a pretty robust multi-tiered evaluation process. So we use kind of LLMs as judges for the relevance and ranking, but we also have golden sets of data both that we've created. So you can imagine that for a bunch of the workflows around product management that I talked about, we use our product managers to kind of, do some of that evaluation. So we have both a mix of LLM based evaluation, human and expert based evaluation, and then kind of the tooling to support that. So we're constantly looking at, you know, the value of the answers we provide, the relevance of the answers we provide, and then also try
Yeah.
to provide like the transparency around those. So direct citations for everything, the documents that they're sourced from, and so on.
So like an example of a golden data set is like I'm looking for some strategy document or PRD, and this the right stuff shows up in the list, or
Yeah, exactly. So you can imagine that the entire search result page can be evaluated for its relevance, like every single link on it. And so
Mhm.
what we do is when we generate all those results, whether it's the images, the videos, the documents, we have an LLM rate the relevance of those. And then we can, in our internal builds, we can see what that rating is. And then we can provide real time or kind of user feedback internally on those results to help improve that. And so that's one, and then we kind of augment that with a golden set of, um, you know, uh, answers, prompts,
Mhm.
search results, so that we can constantly make sure that that we're not drifting, even in that LLM eval process.
Yeah, yeah. The LM as a judge process is like pretty fancy. You can like scale it to a lot of different use cases, but like I think ultimately what's behind it is like a human. Like a human has to, give the right prompt and make sure everything's makes sense. So
Yeah, absolutely. And so we can kind of, both generate kind of how we use because Dash is used across Dropbox. We use it to run our business, and it's an
mm,
incredible test and learning ground for the product team to have a couple of thousand people using it constantly internally. So we can learn both from how we use it, but how other teams use it. So how customer support uses it, how communications and the events team uses it, and then
yeah,
really kind of understand, hey, are we, nailing those search results? Are we nailing those answers and chat sessions, and use that to kind of improve the loop over time? So I agree, it's a bit of platform dashboard technology, but then ultimately, human subject matter experts like really verifying and helping improve those outputs.
yeah. Human judgment. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Morgan, you have like some really great posts on LinkedIn, and I want to hear some of your hot takes about PMing and AI. There's like a lot of there's a, there's both good and bad parts about our job, right? So I think first I think you're a big believer in kind of moving fast, but at the same time you also have said that motion doesn't equal progress. So maybe like what is progress then? What is moving fast to you?
Yeah, I think moving fast is your rate of learning, your rate of understanding. So I think I believe a lot of teams are focused on activity without actually closing the loop of understanding what happened, right? My degree is in biology. I think in terms of systems with everything, ecosystems with everything. And every time you know, put something into an ecosystem, one of two things happens: either something changes or something doesn't, or nothing changes. Hopefully, you do more work where something changes, and within that something changes bucket, either it affects it positively or affects it negatively. And so doing the work is just one step of that process. But really, the ultimate goal is to understand, did you affect the system positively or negatively, and then use that as input into your next attempt. And so, one of the things that I see teams really focused on is, output over outcomes. And I really want to drive teams to outcomes where, you can do the postmortem, you can understand, what actually changed. You have a problem well enough defined so that when
Mhm.
you ship the thing, you can actually get data back on whether it improved it or hurt it. And I think that is the most important thing about moving fast. So moving fast just to do more stuff, not super valuable. Moving fast to up your learning rate. I really believe your learning rate is the derivative of all progress and success. And so the faster you can move that, the better.
Yeah, and like learning doesn't mean like shipping is really important, but you can also learn just by like showing a mock to the customer or like looking at metrics. There's multiple ways to kind of get that feedback loop, right? So
Yeah, 100%.
yeah,
I think, yeah, and I don't think it doesn't even have, to your point, it's not about necessarily shipping code, but it's kind of like, getting out of your own head, getting out of hypothetical and trying to, put ideas into contact with reality. I think so many meetings are spent debating hypothetical situation, hypothetical products, and it's like, what
yeah.
are we doing?
Yeah, that's something that I personally struggle with. Maybe you can give me some advice. Like, I really love, like just kind of like crafting a great product, obsessing about details, showing to users, and like shipping it, and like getting some feedback. But I think a lot of times at larger companies, you have to you're like crafting internal artifacts instead. You're making documents and making plans, and there's like a bunch of internal feedback loops, right, going up to the director, VP, and so on and so forth. And in some ways, it's kind of like you only have like 24 hours in a day, or like however long you work. So like balancing the internal stuff with the customer facing stuff, like how do you find the right balance there? You know?
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. I think it's a challenge that all of us face. I think when I managed a team of PMs at Instagram, I would kind of look at their, we would do kind of a twice a year, survey, employee satisfaction survey. And one of
yeah,
the number one pain points was, time doing low value stuff, whether it was like writing status reports or being in an alignment meeting or all of
mm,
that. And so really that was one of the things that drew me to kind of work on Dash, was like try to solve all that busy work. So you can actually do more of the stuff that you mentioned that's really important, like talking to customers and, building these like beautiful products. But I think the way that I think about it is one, I basically have three levers for me and my team. I
mm,
have the product roadmaps, I have the people on my team, and I have the processes and cadences that support the development of those products through those people. And so generally, that's my framework for where I have leverage in the system. And then when it comes to this internal alignment piece, really, I think it comes down to um, how do I, what's the shortest path to solving a user problem of kind of putting a new product or a new experience in their hands that I think has or that we think has the best chance of solving that pain point. And so
mm,
if I work backwards from that, first of all, it's, hey, what evidence do I need? Or sorry, maybe we'll start with like, what problem am I trying to solve? What's my hypothesis? Do I have a good hypothesis? Why do I have that hypothesis? Is it my own personal experience? Is it something I'm dealing with? Is it something I've seen in the data? Is it something I hear from sales, user
yeah,
research, customer support? Where? So what's my hypothesis, and is it a good one? Is how strong is it? From there, like, what's my evidence, and then where do I lack evidence? And that's actually where I think some of the speed opportunity comes from, where it's like, hey, if I'm short of evidence, what are the things I can do right now to get more evidence? And it could be get a prototype in front of some rapid research UXR sessions. It could be talk to some of our friendly customers on our customer advisory board about the problem and whether they're experiencing it.
Mhm.
Mine through gong calls for sales to find customer, talking points where and conversations and watch those conversations around those items. So building that evidence, I think, is where you can get a lot of velocity. And then, do you have the right kind of processes set up to drive alignment very quickly? Like, do you have the right sets of reviews? Are people really clear on how we make decisions? Are people really clear on how to frame decisions and trade-offs so we can make decisions more effectively? We
Mhm.
all talk about like one shot in an LLM. I like to try to like one shot decisions, like how do you do that? And so, yeah, I think across those three levers of, product, people, and process, there's opportunities to kind of cut that distance down to as short as possible.
Got it. So it's about having the doing the research, and it's okay to admit that you don't know some things. And like, I guess the goal of the alignment meeting is to figure out like, okay, this is the next step I'm going to do to actually learn, right? To figure out to confirm my risk assumptions. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, yes, I think that's the first thing is like, hey, our goal is to like seek truth and then try to build solutions to kind of meet that truth. And so, yeah, I often start with like saying, I don't know what I'm talking about. This is all just a hypothesis. But I
Yeah.
think the working from there and working forward, I think the part that people miss is that they often don't agree on what the principles are that they're using to make a decision. So
Mm.
what's most important? Is it monetization? Is it user satisfaction? Is it, kind of task success? Is it, you know, legal and privacy risk? Like there are all these inputs into decision making that are usually implicit and they're not ever stated. And so one of the things I really try to push my team to do is, hey, what are the principles by which we're making this decision? And which of those criteria are most important? And then
Got
when
it.
people start debating the solutions or the options, you can kind of debug. Is it an option problem? Is it a principle problem? Is it a goal or hypothesis problem? And that gives you kind of much more leverage to drive alignment faster, I found.
Yeah, I think there's all these different artifacts like vision, strategy, and roadmap. But I found like having a crisp set of principles like super useful because you can use them to make daily decisions, and you can be like, hey, this is my principle, and this is why I'm trying to deliver this first, or like I think aligning on principles is like super helpful. So
Yeah, and then
totally
you can
agree.
you can say, "Oh, I actually think that's the wrong principle," which kind of would then change the option set, entirely.
And just to dig a little bit deeper on this, like we talked about heat and Sha before this interview, and for like founders or like founder minded people who come into these like larger companies, and Heaton mentioned you're really awesome at bringing clarity to ambiguous situations with a lot of opinions, and you talked about some of this already, but like what's your advice for like the founder or like the PM who really wants to like get shit done, but like has to figure out how to navigate all this stuff? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think this is an important question, particularly for founders entering like bigger companies, because I think the experience that I've seen, and I've even had this a bit in my own experience. While not a founder, before I got to Facebook, I was the chief operating officer of a small company that we scaled up and led to a successful acquisition. So, but when I got
Mm.
to Facebook, I realized that a lot of my arguments in meetings were just failing. They just were not landing at all. And I was, not able to drive kind of consensus. I was struggling driving my roadmap forward. I
Mhm.
was actually like very worried that I was like not going to last very long there in my first 6 months because I was like, I just, don't know why this isn't working. And luckily I had an amazing manager who pulled me aside and said, Morgan, the reason your arguments aren't landing is because you're relying too much on your own personal experience and analogies and pattern matching from the past and not
Mhm.
kind of the empirical, logical rationale behind it. And he said something that really stuck with me. He said, people don't really care about what worked in the past. They want confidence in what's going to work today and here. And that really struck me, right? I was like, oh wow, okay, that whole shift makes sense. And it's not that taste and pattern matching and judgment and experience aren't important. They're critically important, but they have to be paired with kind of, hey, how do you drive alignment across a large number of people who are coming at the problem from many different perspectives, have many different points of view, and want confidence in these ideas. And so the idea has to stand on itself, by itself, more so than because it's my idea is the reason it should stand, right? It should be defensible and strong enough on its own. And so a lot of what I try to do to kind of clear up ambiguity is one, make sure the idea is defensible and, steel manned or very strong logically and evidence based as much as possible. And
Yep.
where it is taste and where it is subjective, that's great. We need that. That's how you get differentiation, but like call that out explicitly and then be really clear on what you're trying to solve and how. And I found that, rapidly clears up a lot of kind of ambiguity and swirl because you've
Mm.
eliminated a bunch of implicit inputs and you've replaced them with explicit inputs. So it's kind of like what we tell our kids in schools, like show your work. And I think a lot of founders, like, they have that confidence of the team. Obviously, they've been able to like create a vision, attract a lot of capital, attract a lot of people to that vision, really because of their belief in it. And I
Yeah.
think really the change is you have to take that internalized belief and then externalize it in a way that can be viewed and challenged and improved.
And I also think, like, yeah, like you mentioned, being a little bit vulnerable. Like people want to have like the perfect pitch or perfect thing. If you're like 100% confident, they probably like wait too long, right? To like actually make the pitch. So like being a little bit vulnerable, like I said, being open about what you're not sure of and like what you want to validate, I think probably builds a lot of trust too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the more that we can do that, where the objective is to like build great products. It's not to be right in every meeting or
Yeah.
there's like a bunch of like second order incentives, but like you kind of have to keep your eye on the prize. And I think, when I worked at Instagram, Adam Mosseri told me something once. He just said there will be many situations where you can never have enough data.
Yep.
You'll just never have enough data to make a call with 100% confidence. And so you have to get, it's a diminishing returns curve, and you have to know when you're on the diminishing returns side of that curve. And the punchline is that you're there more often than not, which just kind of encourages you to kind of move faster in your decision making.
Got it. So you work with like some pretty amazing founders. You worked at, you worked at Meta, obviously, and then with Tobi at Shopify, and also with Drew at Dropbox. Like, I'd love to hear like your top learnings from each, or like how each one operates.
Yeah, I think they're all incredible companies, and they're all different in their own way. So I think Meta, incredible company, learned so much there. I think the thing that was really clarifying for me is that it was very clear how they made decisions. They
Mm.
were data led. You ran experiments. You had an opportunity to run a lot of experiments. You could collect a lot of information about how those things improved or didn't improve products. And so everyone used that language of decision making. Hey, did this make retention better? Did this make engagement or growth better? Um, you know, that was kind of a very crystallized and clear decision making framework, and allowed the company to move very quickly, even and it's like really extraordinary scale. And I
Yeah.
think some of the best decision making I've ever seen kind of has happened there in terms of like how to do that really well at scale. At Shopify, they are not like data led. They are data informed. They use a lot of data and understanding, but they are led by Toby's vision for the future of e-commerce and the future of commerce generally, and kind of the 100-year view of the role that Shopify should play in the ecosystem and its role in encouraging entrepreneurship around the world as one of the best kind of forces of good that's out there. And so while you would use data, really the most important thing was, hey, is this aligned with where Shopify is going, where we want it to go? And
Mm.
so it really was more of a taste and kind of an opinion of like what the future should look like that came directly from Toby. And so the company, like Toby would tell our growth team, like, don't run a bunch of random experiments just to see what moves the metrics. He's like, I don't want any of that to happen. What I want you to do is have a point of view on how this helps make more entrepreneurs, and
Mm. Yeah.
then experiment there and learn there about whether you're right or wrong. And so it's a subtle but important shift.
Mhm.
Um, and I think what I love about Drew is Drew, like Toby, is also an engineer. And so Drew really wants to kind of understand your rationale and argument very clearly, so he can understand it very deeply.
Mm.
He is one of the most technical founders I've ever met. When you talk to him about AI, he is, he's building his own GPUs. He is really down like in the technical details, and so the incredible opportunity with that is to think about product not just from the user side, but also from the technical capability side and like what is actually possible. And I think until you kind of truly understand technically what's possible, particularly with some of the systems we're building today, you're kind of your option set and your space of what's possible for product solutions is like too small. But once you kind of
Yeah.
really get into the depth of the technicality, then you're like, oh wow, like actually the opportunity to build is much much larger. And so that's kind of his superpower, I think.
Yeah, especially with AI, because like this stuff like blows my mind every couple of weeks. So you gotta really follow the news and understand
Yeah.
what's possible. You gotta, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the more you understand what's possible, the more, options and more spaces to play open up.
And like I love how you cover all three because I think it's also important for our listeners to think about like what style resonates the most with them. Like, like if you're not someone who's like super experiment focused or like let metrics aside, they're probably not gonna do too well at Facebook, right? So it's you gotta think about what resonates with you. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to find that kind of the philosophy fit with how you like to build and what you want to accomplish.
Okay, so let's wrap up by talking a little bit about our PM function and how AI would change it. I mean, you're leading a whole AI product org. Let's make this super practical, right? Like, what kind of PMs do you look for to bring on board? Like people who have high agency, or like what kind of PMs?
Yeah. So I think three things.
Mhm.
The ability to like take very ambiguous situations and come up with a clear approach and a way to work through that, right? Like I think we're all being thrown, like you said, this changes every 24 hours. We're being thrown new problem spaces, new challenges. They're all very ambiguous. They're rapidly evolving, and you need people who are able to effectively move through those in a way that is, uh, you know, is not scattershot. It's not kind of random, but it's like, no, I know how to take an ambiguous space. I know how to frame it, put some bounds around it, establish what I think is important, and then figure
Mhm.
out a way to kind of work through it. So that kind of like critical thinking, essential. The second part is what you mentioned, which is agency, the ability to execute. Like the world is moving so fast. The only way to kind of be successful in it, I think, is to up your learning rate, is to kind of, validate or invalidate your hypotheses, as fast as we can. The ability to kind of get stuff out of the hypothetical and into reality is all about execution. And so people who can get stuff done is critical. And then I think the third piece is that product sense, that taste, that opinion. I think
Mhm.
you need a point of view on what you think should exist. If you don't have a point of view on where you think this technology should go, how it should be applied, then you're kind of more in project management than you are in product development. And so those are the
Yeah.
three things that I really champion and want to build on my team.
Yeah, you kind of need all three, right? You need to have like like if you have a point of view but you don't like ship, then maybe your point of view is wrong. You never know.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
So
That's all
yeah.
hypothetical. You make good thought leadership posts on LinkedIn, but that's about it.
Okay. And like why don't you paint a picture for our last question about like even like a year from now, dude? Like what would PMA look like? Like are we gonna have all maybe using Dropbox, like have all these AI agents working for us? And like, what do you think it'll look like? I don't, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's going. So I think if you think of it on a spectrum in terms of stuff that should be automated and out of your way, and stuff that's like on one end of that spectrum, and stuff that's like deeply human, creative, and valuable and differentiated on the other. I think I would say that most PMs spend a lot of their time in the middle of that distribution, where it's like a bunch of project management, a bunch of busy work, a little bit of deep work, a little bit of spending time with customers, all that. But our distribution is clustered in the middle of that continuum. And I think in a year, the best PMs will have two nodes, like as far out to each of those poles as possible, where AI will take a lot of the busy work, whether it's finding stuff, organizing stuff, generating stuff, or orchestrating stuff out of the system. And I think whether it's Dash, you're seeing a bunch of like interesting automation and workflow platforms, whether it's like Zapier's workflows, whether it's N8N. So I think you'll have a bunch of kind of human in the loop automations, and it will feel more like orchestrating that.
Yep.
Right now I use Dash, I use Claude, I use ChatGPT, I use Grok. Like I have this kind of council of LLMs. I think that will just expand. And you'll have LLMs that are in charge of other LLMs and other agents. You have MCP. So all of that will get really dense. And then hopefully what it can do is get you out of that center of that continuum. And so most of this now frees all this time to, could I spend 80% of my time talking with customers, talking with my team, or thinking about how to better solve their problems?
Mhm.
In a year, if I can get much closer to that because of all of this that's like taken care of over here, I think that would be a huge win for us as a function.
Yeah, we have like so much more job satisfaction. The other end
Yeah.
is like the fun part, you know?
Yeah, it would
Yeah.
feel like play. It would feel like flow. It would feel like jamming with smart people on really important problems. It wouldn't feel like project management or alignment meetings or all of that. So that's my hope. I think a year is very feasible with kind of the rate of change. Maybe it's even 6 to 9 months at this rate, but we'll see.
Maybe we can get like Peter AI and Morgan AI to align first, and if they can't do it, then we bring the humans in. Yeah, I'm just kidding. Yeah. Okay, great. So, where can people find you, and also where can people find Dash?
You can find and try Dash at dropbox.com/dash. You can see a demo, see all the features, all of that good stuff. You can find me on LinkedIn, Morgan Brown, or at Morgan B on X and LinkedIn and all of the various places. So yeah, happy to connect and follow what I'm thinking about on any given day.
Awesome, Morgan. Thanks so much, man. This has been an awesome conversation, and best of luck on Dash.
Yeah, same. And thanks for all you do. It's great to connect with you. Thanks, Peter.